Well, I can safely say that that was a book. I read it, and things happened in that book. Beyond that, I have absolutely no clue. I'm kidding. It's not that bad. Today we're talking about Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. And to be quite honest, I actually think that the difficulty level of reading this book has been greatly exaggerated. Now, to be fair, this is a 10-book series, and I have only read book 1 in the entire 10-book series. So in the next 9 books, it could become so devastatingly daunting, I could take all of that back, and I could start to struggle as the books go on. But as of right now, I really genuinely feel like the difficulty level of these books is quite exaggerated. And then there's the density of it. People always talk about, just how dense these books are, and I didn't find it to be that either. Now, I will say that this was a little bit more dense than your typical book that you're just going to blow through at a super fast rate. This is a little bit more dense than that, but it's not like completely inaccessible like the writing style of Neuromancer or the strange, obscure density of something like a Book of the New Sun. This is not anything like either of those two experiences. Although, in fairness to all of those people who do claim that this is just so difficult to read, you add that little bit of extra density that I was talking about, and you mix that with the number of characters within this book, which gets very out of control very quickly. And then you mix that with the fact that Steven Erikson does not hold your hand in any way, shape, or form. He just starts going and he just expects you to keep up with him. So you kind of put all that together, and I can at least see what they're saying and where they're coming from and why they say what they say. I just feel like it's a little bit overplayed, maybe exaggerated. But then again, I must say, I've only read this one book. It could spiral out of control from here, and I could take all of that back. We'll see. Now, I will say, with all of that being said, the actual writing here in this book on display is genuinely exceptional. The writing style, to the prose, to the language that he's using, to the way that it's written, to the descriptions involved in this book, it is stunningly written. It is extremely impressive. I was just shocked at I don't know how well it was written. Not that I have any reason to doubt Steven Erikson but I'm just saying, oh wow, I was extremely impressed as I was reading it. It's extremely quotable. You could grab quotes from this and they just sound so sophisticated and so, I don't know how to explain it. And it could come down to just simple conversations. Like, you have the big ones, the heavy hitters, like, a true war was waged, not against humans, but against the human spirit. Something like that. But like I said, it doesn't even have to be one of those big, like, life-altering quotes, which there are, like, so many. I could read them for days. But you could take it down to just a simple conversation and just the things that are being said between two people. You're like, man, what the heck, dude? This is impressive. Like, for example, I got to the end of the book here, which is no spoilers, by the way, but I got close to the end here, and we have this little exchange between two people, and it was, Orenthal scowled. Thus did light survive, and so was darkness destroyed, the purity vanquished, and now you would have us flawed, as our queen was flawed. Light became corrupted and destroyed our world, Corlat. Or have you forgotten? Corlat's smile was a sad one. Cherish such flaws, dear brother, for our queen's was hope, and so is mine. Now we must leave. And I'm just like, damn. Like, damn. That's just, like I said, it can come all the way down to just a simple conversation, and they just, so good. I don't really know what to say other than it's exceptionally well done, it's exceptionally well written, and it just sounds amazing. But to be quite honest, what stood out the most for me in the writing was actually probably the descriptions. They were so vivid and just detailed, and there was just like an absolute burst of visuals. When you would read something, you could not help but see just vivid images in your mind as you're going through these sentences. And if you are not one of those people who sees images in your mind as you are reading, I am very sorry, because these are truly wonderful. And it doesn't even have to be something big, like the first time Animander steps onto a battlefield and Tattersail sees him from a distance. It could be something much smaller. For me, the first one that I really had to stop and be like, dude, this is really, really good, is when Animander is introduced for the first time in like a personal setting where he actually has a conversation with somebody and who walks up, and just the descriptions of him and what he looks like and his hair and his skin, and all the way down to the sword on his back and the fact that the sword radiated power that stained the air around it like ink in a pool of water. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, dude, take it easy. These descriptions are just, they're so good. I couldn't help myself every time. I just pause for a minute, be like, dude, this is just, I can't help it. Impressive. I think I've said that like 4 times now. Impressive work happening here in this book. And then there's just the sheer level of imagination that is on display here in this book is just completely wild. Like from the fact that in the beginning of the book, Tattersail is traveling with like a living like dummy that kind of walks around, and this dummy's like one of the most powerful archmages in the entire book, which is just wild. There's floating cities, there's the hounds, there's the crone, there's the warrens. I don't even know how the warrens work yet. I'm not even sure that the warrens were fully explained how they work in this book. If they were, I kind of missed it. I don't even know, but I'm just saying the sheer amount of ideas on display here is just genuinely impressive. Then they're not even, some of them aren't even like truly, genuinely like earth-shattering. This isn't the first time a floating city has appeared. And to be fair, Animander himself is kind of like a glorified drow elf on steroids from the D&D, world. But that just doesn't change the fact that just the sheer volume of them, there are enough ideas baked into this one book to prop up probably 2 entire like fantasy worlds, and they're just all shoved in here for you, and it's just great. I loved it. It was absolutely wonderful. And on top of that, it's just the first book. Where are we going from here? We have 9 more books to go. Like, how many more layers are we going to add on to the top of this before we're done? I'm just eagerly awaiting book 2 to see exactly where we go. And maybe we're done, or at least for a while. Maybe we're just going to live in this world for a while without adding too much more in terms of layers. Maybe we'll just kind of get deeper into the ones that we already have. I don't know, but I'm ready to find out. That's for sure. But when it comes to the scope of the imagination on display here in this book, what really did it for me, that the icing on the cake, what tipped it over the top for me, was Hairlock. Just his character in general, I don't know, he was just so fascinating to me. Just the second he popped up and we have this extra ultra powerful archmage that's also like a living puppet, I was sold. I'm in. You got me. I'm in for the rest of the book. What you got? And now I will say, I don't read a lot of fantasy. It is by far my least read genre out of all of the genres. I've said this actually many times on the channel. I actually started introducing a bunch of fantasy into my TBR this year because fantasy is a genuine blind spot for me. And I wanted to kind of fix that, start to correct that, kind of fill that blind spot in. And I've spent a lot of the year reading fantasy, and it's kind of all culminated with me attempting Malazan, which is supposed to be like the most difficult. Anyway, I'm on record as saying that I kind of prefer my magic on the softer side. In what fantasy books that I have read, I tend to enjoy soft magic systems more than I enjoy the hard in-your-face magic systems. I just tend to like it when my magic is kept kind of at arm's length. Magic is this weird, mysterious, and rare thing that isn't necessarily ubiquitous within the world. Think A Song of Ice and Fire or something like that. Actually, I think in those books, the magic might be a little bit too soft, and we could maybe use a little bit more of it. But, you get what I'm trying to say. So imagine my surprise in this book when there is nothing soft about that. This is wild. Not only is it not soft, it's completely in your face. It's completely overblown. And then every main character is a magic user, almost. Like, every single character is one of these people popping warrens left and right. You're like, what is even happening here? Like most books will have like your group that consists of like fighters and rogues and maybe a thief or something like that. And there will be that one token magic user in the background, like Gandalf or even Baez from the First Law. And then in this one, it's just everybody. Nope, everybody's a magic user. The people that are rare are the people that don't use magic. Who are they, like? Whiskey Jack? Maybe Perrin. I think he does his, but does he count because he's got that magic sword of his? I don't know. Anyway, but the point here is, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was so involved. I was invested. I ate it up. So either I was wrong about myself and whether or not I like hard versus soft magic, or maybe it just depends on how it's implemented and how it is used in the book. Maybe it's just, if it's done right, I can be all in on a hard magic system. I don't know, because I was really, really invested in this book and in the magic and all of the magic users. The magic users were my favorite characters in the book. And if I'm going to bring up the characters, we might as well just go ahead and talk about them here, because like I said in the beginning, there were a lot of them. And for the most part, Steven did an extremely good job at making them all unique, distinct, and memorable. And there are a few times where you'll be going throughout the book and some people pop up and start talking. And you're like, excuse me, I'm sorry. Who are you? I don't really remember you being a part of this book. But for the most part, that wasn't the case. Like, somebody popped up and you're like, yeah, yep, I know this one, I know that one. Like, you're right in there. It was just very well executed, very well done with how big the cast was. And then a lot of the characters have like an instant hook to their character in their personality, or a quite distinct name like Tattersail or Whiskey Jack or Quick Ben, Tuck the Younger. But then some of them don't get that distinct name like Perrin or Crocus or Cruppa, and they all pretty much stand out too. So there's just enough variety in all of it to really make it manageable as you're going through the book. And then there's the ones that stand out like right off the bat, like Tattersail or Whiskey Jack. And it feels like Quick Ben's kind of like a side character and not quite maybe as in-your-face important. At least he didn't feel that way right off the bat, but he does feel a little bit mysterious because he's kind of powerful. And he's very important to Whiskey Jack, and we're not really sure why he's so powerful or as high-ranking as he is, because he's just kind of like this quiet character off to the side. And then he pays off way later for, oh my gosh, the payoff in Quick Ben's character. He was one of my favorites. Boy, I like me some Quick Ben by the end of this book. A lot. And just, yeah, the reveals that come for his character as the book goes on, just fabulous. But then if we transition away from characters, then I can't get away from this book without talking about like the set pieces, the big crazy action scenes, or just something that happens in this. It's wild. Like the time when Animander steps onto the battlefield for the first time in, I want to say, chapter 2 or 3, when Tattersail sees him out across the way. You're like, damn, this is pretty crazy. This is pretty impressive. Or there's a fight between Tattersail and Perrin when a hound shows up for the first time in the book. Oh my gosh. But, or I'm not getting out of this without bringing up chapter 15. The entire chapter, just the whole of chapter 15, by far the greatest chapter in the entire book. I will not accept any suggestions that another chapter could possibly beat it. It was that good. This is the chapter, and without spoiling anything, by the way, this is the chapter where Perrin has like a little fight with Hairlock while Quick Ben watches from a distance, and Animander will show up at a certain point and have a little fight with some hounds. That chapter, if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, just wait. But the real point is, there are some next level just events and just things that happen that are just, they're absolute showstoppers. And there's not one, there's not two, there's multiple that happen in this book. And it is just a joy to read. It really is. Then there's the fact that this is a book that it is the book one in a series, and it works as a book, and it also works as a setup to the rest of the series. You are so ready to move into book two to see where all of this is going to go and where all of these characters are going to go. But the payoff that is baked into this one book is just truly wonderful. Like, it succeeds on every level as a standalone, and it succeeds on every level as the first book to a series. Are we taking notes, Joe Abercrombie? I'm teasing. That's not nice. Sorry, Joe. But no, it really does. I was genuinely impressed with the quality of the book on multiple levels. And then there's the rating of the book. And this is one of those kind of rare instances where I kind of talked myself into a higher rating than I originally had. Like, you put the book down, you finish reading it, and you're like, okay, that's a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, I'll give it a solid 8. That's like your initial impression as you finish reading the book. Then in order to do these reviews, I note them out. I type out some notes to kind of keep myself on track. If you could believe that these are noted out, like that, they feel pretty schizophrenic at times, but I do. I put down some bullet points. I kind of go back through, I reread a few things, and I kind of get myself reoriented so I just have a good idea what I want to say. And this is one of those instances, by the time I'm done putting down all my bullet points and going through and reading this passage and reading that passage, I've got myself so hyped up by my own notes that I had to increase the score from an 8 to a 9, because it was just, I don't know. It's like, man, maybe I'm not shortchanging this by giving it an 8. Maybe I should give this a 9. Anyway, that's what I'm going with. We're going to sit on a 9 for this one because, reliving or just going back through it and trying to relive the experience of reading some of these things in my brain changed the whole number for me. I just got myself all excited again. Anyway, as always, everybody, the link for my Patreon is in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.